How's that for a little surprise on your Tuesday evening? The Phoenix Suns on a 6-game losing streak with everybody out. No DeAndre Ayton, no Devin Booker, no Chris Paul, no Cameron Payne, no Landry Shamet, no Cameron Johnson, no Jay Crowder. They go to Golden State and win. That's why they play the games. That's why they play the games. And I'm without Matthew Lissy on this one, but I do have the king himself, Dave King. Last time you were on the podcast was after the Suns beat the Memphis Grizzlies, the last time we won a game. We got to schedule you a little bit more often. Maybe
You
we
know
can get
what
more
else I
wins.
just looked up? When we did the solar panel big finish episode, it was December 3rd.
Jeez.
The Suns were in first place in the West. I retire from podcasting. The Suns retire from basketball.
Yes.
Maybe this is their rebirth.
Coincidence? I think not. So what you're saying is you're here to announce that the Solar Panel Podcast is coming back so we can go back to being in first place,
if
right?
they need me, there's a big problem.
Well, it was really a fun game to watch, regardless of what the outcome was. I think that we were all very shocked and surprised.
Oh, no, it was much more fun.
Yes.
With the outcome.
Of course. Of course. But it was a surprising beginning to this game because, I mean, literally all day long, we were all, those of you who are on Twitter, make sure you follow me at Darth Void, and you can follow him at Dave King NBA. We were going back and forth, just kind of talking about, things to talk about other than the Suns game, because this was just going to be everything that was, it was just set up for failure in this game. And ultimately, the Phoenix Suns emerged victorious. So
my wife and I were laughing about how many people were out. And then early in the game, TNT couldn't even fit all the names on their graphic of all the guys that were out. They're going, and
page 2
campaign. Oh, and Jay Crowder. Yeah.
It just goes to show you that's why you play the games. So welcome, Jamsters, to another edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. Plenty to talk about, obviously, on this one as the Suns go to 21-21 on the season and defeat the Golden State Warriors. So if you're joining us and you're watching live, please hit the thumbs up button while you're hanging out. If you're watching later, hit the thumbs up button. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review. We'll read it right here in the pod, and we truly appreciate it. It lets everyone know we're the best post-game pod on Planet Orange is. I'm going to be popping open a Coors Banquet beer. I'm pulling out my Johnny Lawrence from Cobra Kai. I think you're like 4 whiskeys in, right? And you're going to be humping a corduroy couch or something, right?
Hey, man, it's after 10. I'm already done with all that.
There you go. Well, I'm just starting. So crack them if you got them, Suns fans. And let's talk about this little victory. State, and even though they give up 34 points in the fourth quarter, they had a 26-point lead that got down to, I believe, as little as 6. They win 125-113 in this game. So I got to ask you, Dave, coming into this game, what were you looking for when you sat down tonight and you were getting ready to watch this game? Like, what were your expectations? Were you trying to see how the Suns were going to do with their backups to the backups running the Spain pick and roll? Or were you just like, you know what? This is like the Georgia TCU game. I'm just going to watch half of it and then go to sleep.
Okay, so I'm a glutton for punishment. I always watch the whole Suns games regardless of what happens. They could lose by 5. I mean, come on. We were around in the era of every game being like this. So what was I looking for? I was literally looking for individual moments of good play. I was looking to see how Dwayne Washington would handle a starting role. When I saw that, I was like, wow, yep, it makes sense. When I wanted to see how Mikhail Bridges was doing, like physically, is he going to look like he shouldn't have even been out there? I was actually thinking earlier in the day, maybe Mikal should be sat out too, because you're just punting the game. But clearly this Suns team did not punt this game. I loved it though. Monty Williams always plays it coy. I guess before the game, somebody asked him, so you're still going to play Suns basketball even though you're out so many guys? I guess he looked at him and goes, no,
No.
These guys don't play that same way. You got to play a different kind of basketball. And then at the first quarter break, I loved it when Monty was interviewed at the first quarter break on TNT. The interviewer, I forget her name, was like, or I forget who it was, but they said, yeah, they said, but pre-game that you guys were going to come out amped, and everyone should be worried that you guys were going to play really good. Maya just looked at him like, what? We got nobody.
It's like
And
we're just happy to be here, kind of thing. Well, and to that point, it was interesting because we saw kind of a different brand of Phoenix Suns basketball, because when you have such an undermanned staff, you're going to get just that, a different brand. You're going to try to do what you can to accentuate the highlights of the players that are out there. And the thing that I noticed early on in this game was the level of energy that this team played with the active hands, and most notably, the fact that they attacked the basket. I mean, think about this. Relentless the entire game. Damian Lee was 14 of 14 from the free throw line. He had 21 points in this game. 14 of them came from the line. He entered tonight with 45 total free throw attempts on the season. The Phoenix Suns in this game attempted 31 free throw attempts, and they were 29 of 31. How many times this season do you think that the Suns have had 31 or more free throw attempts?
I don't know. Have you looked this up?
I have the answer in front of me. This could be one of those things where it's like,
ooh, dang, stat me.
Always got the drop ready. How many times? Just take a random guess. How many times have they attempted as many free throw attempts as they had tonight or more?
I'm going to say 3.
2.
Now
2.
It's 3. Wow,
now it's 3.
I'm on.
So
I'm actually feeling high on that one. I was going to start with 0 at the beginning.
Well, it's something that we just don't do. And you look at the 2 other times that we've done it, once against the New Orleans Pelicans and once against the Golden State Warriors. So if you're a Golden State Warriors fan, you think the Suns get all the calls against
Suns
you.
Suns are now 3-0 against the Warriors with none of them being close. Every one of them a blowout.
Isn't that insane?
And the Warriors have been healthy every time.
So you look at that, okay? So that's one thing. They attacked the basket. The other side of this is they ended with 58 rebounds. Only one other time this season have they had more than 58 rebounds. They've had 60 against the Knicks in November, and then 53 was the next highest total against the Clippers in mid-December. So again, I mean, it's this different brand of basketball, and that's what made this game fun. It was fun to watch basketball tonight because we weren't frustrated with the lack of aggression, the lack of hitting the boards, the constant turnover. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't have the number yet, but as you talk, I'll look it up. I mean, the turnovers in that fourth quarter for the Phoenix Suns nearly cost them the game. But how exciting was it to watch this brand of basketball, regardless of who the players were who were conducting it?
Well, it was so fun. And really what they were doing the whole night is they were actually playing in the 0.5 offense. Mm-hmm. The 0.5 offense is supposed to be pinging the ball around, an egalitarian offense where it doesn't matter who takes the shot as long as you keep passing it until there's an open one. When the Suns get in trouble is when they hesitate. They do the pump fake pass and they don't know what to do, and then they let the defense get up on them, and then they panic. And then let's talk about that. You mentioned the fourth quarter. When the Suns had turnover after turnover after turnover. And I was wondering, where the heck was Dwayne Washington? Well, first of all,
everybody was wondering that.
You know how down bad first of all, you know how down bad the Suns are when you're praying for a two-way player who's 22 years old, who has turnovers like crazy, and you're praying for him to handle the ball against a pressure full court defense. That's how down bad the Suns ball handling is. A couple of people replied to me that it looked like he actually turned his ankle at the end of the third quarter. Mm-hmm. And Monty did hold him out until the 5 or so minute mark, and then put him in for a minute or two and then pulled him out again, almost certainly because he wasn't moving well. And against that pressure Warriors defense, if you can't move, it's even worse than being unable to dribble and pass. So I'm going to give it that. If he comes out totally fine and he didn't play in the fourth, then that's obviously on Monty. But you know what? The Suns still won this game. You know what else was fun? It didn't get to the clutch, and it didn't get to a 3-point game because the Suns are awful in those situations. So that's great. That's great.
Well, it's been a consistent narrative this entire season that this team, when pressured, turns the ball over. And you're right. And Matthew and I were talking about this on the last podcast. When you're sitting there and you're going, where is Dwayne Washington? Where's Ish Wainwright? Where's all of our two-way guys? Like, these are the guys who are impacting. It's just, it goes to show you where exactly we are at this current moment in time with this fan base and with this team, given the fact that we're unbelievably depleted when it comes to injuries. And you saw the Warriors take advantage of that. And I'm glad that the Suns got some calls at the end there, because the Warriors were being allowed to be unbelievably pestering and unbelievably aggressive in the way that they were playing defense, knowing that the Suns didn't have any ball handlers who could get the ball over the court. They didn't
have anybody who could dribble through traffic. And but again, props to Damian Lee. He's the one who had the mentality. He's like, fuck, I'm just gonna dribble through these guys and force them to hit me, and drew the contact. And that's how he got those 14 free throws. Part of that was just saying fuck it at the end of the game and just throwing himself into guys when they were trying to get the ball. So that was really good. And I don't know if you caught it, but Damian Lee went down with a turned ankle at one point, but he got back up.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Back up. For once, a Suns player gets back up from a turned ankle.
Well, but then you had like Torrey Craig, who got that foul at the back end of the game, coming over the back of Klay Thompson. He took an extra minute. I'm just like, we can't. Yeah,
I think he took it in the wrong place.
I think he did too. He had that look on his face.
Yeah.
A couple extra balls up next to his eyeballs.
Something like that. Exactly. So props to the team for coming out and just saying, fuck it. We're tired of losing. We're tired of all of this. We're going to play our very best and see what happens. And they didn't choke. What was really cool is that Mikal made his middies when he needed to, a la Devin Booker. He got to his spots when the Suns really, really needed those scores. And everyone else just crashed the boards like crazy. Hey, throw up the stat me.
Okay, I got you right. Hold on. There.
Ooh, dang, stat me.
You tell me, don't look at the box score real quick. Tell me which player was closest to a triple-double tonight and what they had.
The Sarge smoke break.
Yeah, baby.
I remember correctly without looking at the box score. Tell me if I'm right, because you got to remember I covered this game for Brightside, so I wrote.
Oh, that's true. You had to look up that.
18 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists.
19.
Maybe there might be a typo in my Brightside.
Dario Saric coming off the bench from hardly playing at all this season. Almost throws a double-double against the world champs.
Almost throws a triple-double.
Triple-double.
Almost throws a triple-double. And he was unbelievably vital in this game. And I'm glad you brought up Dario, and it's fun that we get to do Dario as our first drop tonight because, a couple things. When he got his 5th foul on when the Scott Foster and his crew started calling every ticky-tack offensive foul they could on the Phoenix Suns.
Oh, my God. Those offensive fouls
they were horrible.
Ridiculous.
They were horrible. And the one that Dario got hit with, which ended up being his 5th foul, I even wrote it in the recap for Brightside. I go, it felt like strangely an important foul given the effectiveness of Dario Saric in this game. To your point, nearly had a triple-double. And I think he had the most important play of the game when all the momentum was going against the Suns. I forget who had the shot attempt, but it was Dario Saric who got the offensive rebound and put it back in off the glass. And it brought that lead, that was 6 back up to 8. And that was unbelievably vital to this team as they secure this victory against the Golden State Warriors. And to your point, hardly plays. When we do see him, it's a lot of discombobulation. And he was strangely effective in this game. Like, I don't know what he did, what what kind of cigarettes he was smoking before the game, what they were laced with, but he ended up, if you take a look at his final stat line, he 30 minutes played, he was 7 of 11 from the field, 3 of 5 from beyond the arc, and had 3 offensive rebounds, a steal. He did have 6 turnovers. He was our highest member, creating member, but that's what you get with Dario. You give Dario Saric 30 minutes, he's going to turn the ball over.
He's going to do something with it. He's going to do something with it, though. He did more positive than negative. He was always one of those guys who ended up making a positive influence on a game. He's always been that way, no matter how bumbling, stumbling, rumbling he looks. And good for him. Now, should he have been getting minutes all season? Yeah, the Suns have
No.
better players. But in a game where you actually need this dude to step in, it's wonderful to have that guy on the bench and be able to step in. And you know what? He may have upped his trade value right there in that game right there too.
Well, the interesting thing about Dario, and again, when I did the preview for this game for Bright Side of the Sun, check it out. Go to brightsideofthesun.com. I said that the one advantage the Suns were going to have this game was on the boards. Kevon Looney is the only big that they had. No Kuminga, no Wiseman, and their backups, due to the fact that this team is hampered by some injuries as well. Their backups, they have no backup big depth, and if the Suns can take advantage of that, was going to be the opportunity.
Don't compare the Warriors' injuries to the Suns.
Oh, you
injuries.
can't. You can't.
They were starting their finals starting lineup tonight. And the guys out you're talking about are Wiseman. They went to the G League recently, and Kuminga, who was out of the rotation for most of the year. That's like us complaining about, Dwayne Washington was hurt when everyone else is healthy. Now, don't give them credit for having any injuries. Don't give them any
But what I'll
credit.
say is they do lack the interior depth with those two injuries. That's the only area that was their weakness. Is coming into this game, you knew if you could beat them on the interior, you had an opportunity to win this game. And you take a look, they're not a great 5-out team. They need that center in the middle of the court, and they took advantage of that tonight throughout the entire game. And it was Dario Saric who ultimately capitalized. We had Bismack Biyombo had a solid game. I'll talk about that momentarily. I do want to get to a super chat. Thank you, Black Sunday, for $5 in the super chat. He goes, is Monty betting on the Warriors spread in the fourth quarter? Why are you not playing Dwayne Washington Jr. to get the ball past half court? How much turnovers did we have? Well, Black Sunday, if you're joining us just a little late, we did say that there was a lot of talk on Twitter that Dwayne Washington Jr. potentially was hurt. He tweaked his ankle at the end of the third quarter. And if you look in the fourth quarter, the Phoenix Suns turned the ball over 13 times, which led to 16
in the
points
fourth quarter alone.
In the fourth quarter alone. and the Warriors turned the ball over 3 times, which led to 2 points. But the Suns gave up 16 points to
13 turnovers
because
alone.
we didn't have Dwayne Washington Jr. due to injury. And it was ultimately, again, Damian Lee who took charge and got to the line. But talking about Bismack Biyombo, I do want to throw this out there. Biz. Iron Eagle thought he was so smug on the TNT broadcast that he said return of the Bismack. I'm like, fool, I got a drop on my podcast for that shit. So don't think that you came up with anything clever. Clearly, Iron Eagle is a fan of the Suns Jam Session podcast. But
he must have been listening.
He must watch this all the time. Not really, because I hardly ever play that drop because Busy never plays and only played 17 minutes in this one. Again, Dario got 30, and then it was Jock Lando with 23 and 17 from Bismack, but he was 4-7 from the field, had 8 points, 2 blocks, both early on, and 8 total rebounds. Again, the bigs were huge in this game, man.
Hey, did the Warriors end up covering the spread? People are talking in the chat like they might have.
I think it was 13.5, and the Suns won by 12. Last I checked, it was 13.5.
Oh, what am I thinking? It's the other direction. Sorry about that.
Yeah, but they didn't cover because they were supposed to win by 13.5. The Suns covered the spread.
Yeah, the Suns covered their spread. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm being dumb. I was misled by some comments in the chat, and then I took myself down the wrong direction. Yes, the Suns definitely covered in that game. They were supposed to lose by a lot of points. Yeah, no, I really went into the game. Expecting just to look for bright sides. Right side.
No, I see what you did there.
Yeah. And ended up that almost every minute was a bright side.
It was awesome. It was enjoyable. It was enjoyable. I mean, you know this. You go to the games, you cover the games for Bright Side of the Sun. 9 times out of 10, or at least I don't know what your process is, but I'll start with kind of a core of what my recap's going to be. And I type it out and I have it all ready to go. And then I extrapolate upon that because, you give the summary in the middle of it, but you have an opener and a closer, just like, a 3 acts of a movie or a book. And my opener was nothing good in life is easy. And I'm trying to find the good in this and watching the Suns right now because it's not easy. That's the avenue I was going to go down as a writer. And then the first quarter happened. I'm like, well, delete that. Then the second quarter happened. I'm like, delete it completely. Let's come up with a new narrative, because regardless of what happens in this game, this team and the effort in which they played was unbelievably entertaining tonight, considering how many people were out and how much. And again, I get Steph Curry's coming back from missing 11 games and all that fun stuff.
Did you see the graphic though? For his career, 5 times he's missed 10 plus games. He has averaged like balls out
26.3 points.
Don't say, oh, poor Steph only barely came back. He usually dominates those games.
Oh yeah. And tonight, 24 points, 8 of 22 shooting, 5 of 15 from the field. So he did struggle relative to shooting, but he had 24 points. In fact, if you take a look at Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry combined, they had 80 points combined in this game. 80 points. It was Jordan Poole at the end of the third quarter.
Nobody else stepped up.
Nobody else. And again, that's kind of what we just tapped into is the narrative of the Warriors this season. Why is this team 20-21 now? Are they 21-21 just like the Suns now? I believe that's correct. So they're a team that has the same record as the Suns, and everybody's kind of like, well, what's the why? NBA.com still has them at 20-21. I could have swore that they were. Oh yeah, they were 20-20. So they're 20-21.
Yeah, and the Suns are back up in 7th place. Thank you very much.
Yep, we are in 7th now because the Clippers just won, or we would have been. We were in 6th for about
Almost
5
6,
minutes there.
The Clippers broke. Also, let's talk about the Clippers just broke a 6-game winning streak if they won tonight, and they have all their players. So while Suns fans are stressed about the losing and all that, keep looking at these standings. These other teams are losing even with their good players. The Suns will be healthy in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
We just got to get there.
And
that's why.
So people talking about tanking is ridiculous, because you really want to sit there and have a conversation with Devin Booker on February 1st and say, you know what, Book? Can we lose as many games as possible for the next 2.5 months of your life? And Book's going to just punch him in the face because he spent 5 years of his career losing every game.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the tanking conversation, because that is making the rounds. Everything's making the rounds right now. Fire Monty, fire James Jones, tank. Okay, 6-game losing streak. It's gonna take us to some dark places. Your former co-host on Sun Solar Panel, Zona Hoops, he wrote a piece today for Bright Side of the Sun talking about tanking, and he stated right there in it, he's like, listen, I'm not pro tanking, but I'm going to explore that conversation, and it makes sense because, again, everybody's exploring that. Outside of the Devin Booker conversation, how do you feel about the Suns potentially tanking?
No, I'm against it. I mean, we've been through it all these years, and here's the thing. The Suns have won too many games if you think about tanking, you're not going to lose 40 games in a row. You're just not.
You're not.
You're going to lose at worst 30, 25 of those games. Guess what? That leaves you with 30, 35 wins on the year. And that puts you in 11th, right? Why would we spend 3 months of misery on purpose after people get healthy, a misery for the 11th pick in the draft? And don't tell me you can find a diamond in the rough on the 11th pick. There's been all-stars. It's almost certain that somebody at the 11th pick, you're lucky to have a rotation player at best. There are exceptions, but it's almost certain you're lucky to get a rotation player. You can find that rotation player in free agency. So look, I am not for tanking at all. Now, if nobody gets healthy and they lose naturally like this for the next 3 months, hey, we suck it up. We take it, whatever. But if people are healthy, you don't throw games.
Bingo. If we end up with a lottery pick, to your point, it's got to be natural, because there's no way that you can sit there and you could take this team, a team that's won 64 games, and say, hey, guys, like even a 1.8% chance at Wemby is worth it. Because you know what you do? You decimate your culture by doing something like that. Everything that we went through for all those years, it was a constant recycle of culture. It's Earl Watson, it's Lindsey Hunter, it's Igor Kokoshkov. And until we got some stability, we couldn't build upon that. So yeah, does it suck that we've been losing? Absolutely. Is it fun? Hell no. But it's also justifiable losing. And that's one
Yeah.
thing that I kind of have some frustrations when I like today, I tried to avoid Suns Twitter just at all. Like I'm working, I'm just like, I'm just not going to look at it because everyone gets so up in arms about these kind of conversations. It's like, it's not because the team is poorly run or they don't have the right assets. It's all the assets are literally hurt. And to your point, let's say that they end with the 11th pick. You have an 8.5% chance at a top 4 pick and a 1.8% chance at the number 1 overall pick at that point. That's not worth it. That's not worth gambling your culture.
Because the only real changers, the only high percentage chance of game changers is in that top 4, probably only in the top 2.
Yeah, top 2.
So if it happens naturally, it happens naturally. If everybody stays hurt, it is what it is. But if they get healthy, they're going to go on a run. They're going to go on a run because you know what? I really think the team, again, if they get healthy, I really think the team didn't really care as much about the regular season this year as they did the year before, right? The year before, we don't like losing 2 games in a row. We want to set records. We want to set record. Every day is a blessing. Every day is a record. None of that this year. You know why? Because they know it didn't matter.
Exactly.
They set a franchise record. They led the league by 8 wins. What did that get them in the playoff series? Nothing.
Tired, worn out,
and nothing, and out of sync by that time. So you want to finish the season on a run. Now that's again, if they get healthy enough. I mean, shit, they were still first in the West without one of their top 2 players or 2 of their top 5 players with Cam Johnson out. All you need is moderate health. You don't even need perfect health, but they have to be the right guys. It has to be Devin Booker healthy, and and then the playoffs are the playoffs. Whatever happens there, happens there. You play for that opportunity.
Well, and again, the other side of that coin, and I was talking about this with Matthew on the last podcast, was right now we're going through it. I'd much rather go through it in December and January than when we hit the playoffs like last year.
We went through it in April.
Yeah. Everything we peaked too early. 64 wins, great. We'll always talk about that great team that didn't do shit in the playoffs. Whereas this time, it's like, yeah, we're going through. And to your point, okay, we currently have the 6th seed. We're going to continue to fluctuate. We know we have a tough schedule. We play Denver literally tomorrow night. Then that's going to be a tough game. That's going to be bad. That's the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. And they, Nikola Jokic is absolutely playing out of his mind.
The Suns won't have anyone new back.
Yep. It's not like the injury report's going to change. It's not like Monty was resting all of his guys in an effort to try to go out and save face at a mile high in a hostile environment where everybody hates the Suns because we ousted them from the playoffs in an embarrassing fashion 2 years ago. But you have that game. I forget who they play the next game. It's Minnesota. They go to Minnesota, and then they play in Memphis, which is a team that's also atop the West. So it's like it's not going to get easier. But again, it's justifiable why we're losing. And if we're getting through it right now and we start to peak at the right time, that's all you want. Because again, right now, Suns are 7 games out of first place, and they're 1.5 games out of the Lakers are a game and a half behind us. But you
I don't
look
even
at
think the team cares about first place.
No,
or even they just want to have a top 4 seed. They've been talking about that since day one. Even
they
when
want
they
some
were
home
in
court.
First place, they want a first round home court. It's much easier to get all the way through the playoffs if you have home court at least one round. That totally, but they're not killing themselves for first place. So even if Denver or Memphis or someone runs away with first place, the Suns already know that doesn't matter. It's the playoffs that matter.
They've been there. They've done that. They just need to get to the playoffs, and they need to be healthy to do so. We have a super chat asking something about Monty Williams, which we'll talk about right after these words from DraftKings. Listen up, Jamsters. I know this is a basketball podcast, but the NFL playoff picture is locked in, and my go-to place for wild card round action is DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. To kick off the road to Super Bowl 57, new customers can bet just $5 and get $200 in free bets instantly. Plus, all new and existing customers can get a no-sweat bet each day of the wild card round this upcoming weekend. Just place any NFL bet of your choice, and if it loses, you'll get a free bet back up to $10. Action is so good, why not bet NFL playoffs anywhere else? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code TBPN. New customers can bet $5 on the NFL and get $200 in free bets instantly. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code TBPN.
Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
Dude, I
Like that?
love that video. That video is awesome.
Matthew and I made that like 6 years ago for some
That is
dumb reason.
Awesome.
So there you go. All right, so here we go. I want to hear.
You knew 6 years ago you were going to get DraftKings as a
Yes,
sponsor.
I'm like, I need to make this video. We were doing it for like our fantasy football league. I've got a really interesting fantasy football league that I'm very active in, and we made a video, and that was the hype video for it. And he's wearing a cutoff DeMarcus Wareger. It's hysterical.
It
is. So Joel Ramirez, $5 in the super chat again. Thank you, Joel. I want to get your take on this. This should be good. He says Monty is like Mark Jackson. Warriors substantially improved with Mark, but Steve put them over the top. We need to find our real championship coach. Thoughts on that, Dave?
It's entirely possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's entirely. Look, here's the deal. Monty Williams. Okay. So is Monty Williams Mark Jackson, or is Monty Williams Bud Mike Budenholzer?
Budenholzer.
So here's what I'm talking about. Mark Williams, first of all, never got a chance to actually coach them to the finals, so we don't know for sure. And that could happen with Monty Williams this summer. It could be with a new owner. They bring in a new GM, especially if James Jones doesn't do jack shit in the next month, and the Suns come up a little bit short. So they might get a new James Jones, and that new James Jones might want a new Monty Williams, and that guy might bring the Suns to a championship. That's totally fine. But consider this. Mike Budenholzer was being run out by his fans constantly because why? Why was he being run out by his fans?
He couldn't make adjustments.
When?
Before he beat the Suns in the finals.
No, when? In the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
They had lost in the playoffs a couple years in a row, and Mike Budenholzer kept insisting on playing his same way, and that way wasn't versatile enough to beat every single team, and they'd always be a team that could beat him until he had a chance, without being replaced by somebody, he had a chance to actually develop, grow up with the same team and coach them a slightly different way. And they won a championship the year with against the Phoenix Suns. They became a switching defense when they had refused to switch for years.
Yeah.
Maybe Monty Williams isn't such a bad coach people think he is. Maybe he just needs time to see that his way doesn't work and be given a chance. Now, it's quite possible he'll never grow up. He'll never change. It's quite possible he's Tom Thibodeau, who never changes no matter what happens. But it's also possible. Monty Williams is a pretty smart dude. He may figure it out. But I want to find out this year. If Monty doesn't make any adjustments in the playoffs, it's probably time to move on. If he does make some adjustments, everyone's going to forget they said to fire him.
Yeah, and it comes down to how far of a run the Suns can make. You know, I mean, if it's another run to the NBA Finals, you hold on to that guy. If it's a run to the Western Conference Finals, you hold on to that guy. If it's another early round
was last
playoff.
year's it's all about, was last year's playoffs a blip, or was last year's playoffs the blueprint?
Yep.
Right. And so if they go Western Conference Finals, NBA Finals this year, we don't know until it happens. We don't know if they're going to get healthy until February. So stop saying they won't be. In February, you can say, I knew they wouldn't be healthy. That's fine. Go ahead and be prescient. Be prescient. I hope you win everything in life with your prescience. If you know in advance that
means, and you said it three times.
Being able to look into the future.
Oh, okay.
So, all right. So
Cleo.
predicting the future. Right. So if you can predict the future, so help me. I hope your name is Matt Ishbia. So great. If you can predict that the Suns won't get healthy, go ahead. If you predict they'll lose in the playoffs just as bad as this past year, go ahead. I want to watch it. I want to see it happen until then. And then I'll see what actually happens. We don't know what's going to happen. We didn't know what was going to happen tonight. So how can we possibly predict what's going to happen every day in the future?
No, you can't. You can't. If you do, listen, go to DraftKings, promo code TBPN, and make a shit ton of money. Because if you have the Gray Sparks Almanac and you know the future, good on you. I would totally utilize that for sports betting because I'm a piece of shit.
That's right. If you've got prescience, why aren't you downloading DraftKings Sportsbook app, using TBPN, and getting as rich as Matt Ishbia?
Seriously. That's how he did it, folks. He knew, and that's why he took over the Suns, because he's like, I'm going to take this team to the championship. It's written in the cards, and I want to be a part of it. So real quick, I want to do the subreddit stakeout, let you know how Warriors fans were losing their minds tonight.
the Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout.
So again, this is one of my favorite things that we do on the podcast, where we go on the subreddit of the opposing team and we just see how their fans are reacting to the game, to our team, things of that nature. And then we bring those comments here to you, the Jamsters, so you can hear how people perceive our team, the Phoenix Suns. Somebody did say the Suns got 3-point sliders all the way up. What the fuck? Because again, this team was fantastic from beyond the arc. They ended 14 of 31, 45.2%. From beyond
by
arc.
the way, on that, it had to happen at some point. The Suns are one of the better three-point shooting teams in the league. They went a whole week and a half not being able to make any. It had to happen.
Yeah, we were definitely due. And that's one of the things I was worried about. That week and a half of us not hitting threes. I'm like, God, please don't let this be the trend. But again, you're without Devin Booker. Mikhail Bridges has a little bit more of that offensive load being put upon him. And he was the one who was really worrying me when it came to his three-point shooting. But, again, Mikhail tonight, just 1 of 3 from beyond the arc. He was 10 of 18 from the field. He was attacking the mid-range, 26 points. Somebody else on the subreddit for the Warriors said Damian Lee knows Poole is food and goes out to him every time. Jordan Poole is one of those players who just annoys the living shit out of me because he believes his own hype, and you can see it. You can see he's a guy who can hit some threes every now and then. And don't get me wrong, I think he was the highest scorer on the team. He ended up with 27 points for the Warriors, which was 2 less than Klay Thompson. But I just feel like when I watch him, he's one of those players who has a punchable face, especially when he's doing that snarl crap after he hits a three that gets them down 10.
Not doing that. Yeah, exactly. Hell, doing that when you take the lead.
Yeah. But you can't talk too much shit because he's an NBA champion now. So I guess, but he just annoys me. It just annoys me. Suns drive to the basket and we keep up chucking threes so we get no free throws. Where have we heard that before?
It's nice to see it turned around once.
Yes, it's the blueprint for the Phoenix Suns all year. Whenever we're down, we'd stop driving and we start chucking threes. And if they don't go, now that's the difference. Is the Sun, for the Suns, the fact that we shoot as well from beyond the arc is such a valuable thing to have, because we've had seasons in the recent memory where we have a hard time hitting those threes.
Yeah.
And when you got bench players, you got the Damian Lees of the world. Hell, Josh Okogie's hitting threes. Jock Landale hit a 3 this week. That's a big deal. You always know you're never out of a game, and you see how important that is, because for even the Warriors tonight, they played only 4 good minutes of basketball, and it got them back in the game. Now, again, they ended up, because they only played 4 good minutes out of 48, they lost. But knowing that this team has that, how does that make you feel? The ability to shoot the 3.
Hey, man, I got to be honest. I was letting you go on that run while I'm watching the comments.
Yeah.
And some Warriors fan put in the Suns chested tonight. And now that has to be the new catchphrase. He meant to say cheated, but he put chested. He's all the way up. People have been talking about chesting the whole time.
The Suns chested and cheated?
No, this guy Andrew Dawson. Andrew Dawson.
Okay, but he said chested first?
He said chested originally and then corrected to cheated.
As a Warriors fan, you guys chested. God bless you, James, because you go in on this guy.
Now that it has to be a new thing because they puffed out their chests.
Yeah.
And they beasted their way. They beasted their way to the paint and won the game. So thank you for the compliment, Andrew Dawson.
Yeah,
the Suns chested. And
just
now
like
the
Klay
next
Thompson,
time the Suns lead, every time the Suns lead the other team in free throws, we got to say they chested.
That's every fucking game.
No, anytime the Suns out free throw the other team.
Oh yeah, that's okay. So like 3 times a season. It's like that's what Klay Thompson does after he gets blocked from Mikal Bridges. He chests. He throws his chest at Klay Thompson. Another guy who's just been annoying me the last few games. I have respect for Klay, but man, he talks shit at all the wrong times because the Suns just beat the shit out of him, and he talks a lot of mad shit.
His best. He's not at his best against the Suns right now.
No.
I'm not saying forever. I'm just saying right now. I'm not jinxing anything.
Everybody,
but the 3 games this year, yeah.
And see, this is one of the fun things, Dave, is whenever we do a post game podcast and we're against the Warriors fans always come in and talk some shit. And it's been great because they have had a really hard time against the Suns over the past 2 seasons. So it's been really it's been highly entertaining. As Luke Carter says, testing our way to a champion, to a chesting ship.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby.
Another subreddit stakeout comment. LOL, we got cooked by a fucking Craig Sarge pick and roll.
Yep.
That was
Yep.
happening tonight, folks.
It was happening tonight.
That was happening tonight. And then the
Yeah.
last comment I had is somebody wrote in Phoenix buns. I thought that was just kind of a funny. Never heard that.
Well, they stuck their buns out on you.
Yeah, and then we
No,
chested.
I made that up.
So there you go. So
And well, yeah, the Phoenix Suns chested and bunsed.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout.
Fantastic. God, it's like beating the Warriors and beating the Lakers are like two of my favorite things. And the Suns might suck right now, but at least we can still do that.
Right.
You know. What else did I want to ask you? Let me look at my game notes here.
So Mikal Bridges had a really, really good game.
Let's give him his drop. He's earned it. The award. You know what song that is?
Yeah, that's Johnny Cash, right?
No, but at least you know it's a song. Matthew thought that was me singing. It's Merle Haggard. Sing Me Back Home.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Side note. So yeah, Mikhail Bridges in this game, as I mentioned before, 10 of 18 from the field in 41 minutes played, 26 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks, 5 for 7 from the free throw line. Dave, we did it. We finally got a fucking complete Mikhail Bridges game.
Yeah, that was really wonderful to watch. You know what was most exciting for me was that Monty Williams finally acquiesced and started and kept Mikal Bridges in the whole fucking fourth quarter. I think he only sat him for a little bit at the end of that third quarter. And by the start of the fourth quarter, as the Warriors put a few starters back in to see if they could make a push, Monty at least put Mikal Bridges back in because that's all he had. But at least he threw Mikal Bridges out there.
Circumstance.
Right. But, you know, in the game against Cleveland, was it Cleveland? It's been a while. Yeah. They didn't play Mikal Bridges until the 10-minute mark, and Cleveland had already gone on a 10-0 run.
Mm-hmm.
So you put in Mikal at the beginning of the fourth. That was great. That was great sacrifice by Mikal. It's a catch-22, man, right? Because you don't want to overplay your best players, but you also need your best players on the court to win these games when everybody else is out. So I'm really happy for him that he played so well. He made his shots. He's finding his shot again. He did say the other day, he's like, it doesn't matter how my body feels. It's not affecting my shot. I'm just not making shots. So he definitely made his shots, and he was going through it for sure for a while. He had shot 38% for like a month, but now he's pulling himself out of it, and that's a huge benefit to the Suns.
Well, and my big thing is in the time since Devin Booker's been out, his shot attempts per game has actually decreased. And that it can't happen. And I get that, you know, and they were talking about it on the TNT broadcast, how that's not his strength. Obviously, he's a tertiary player, he's your defensive player. It's like, I understand that. But as you're starting to lose Chris Paul and Devin Booker and your primary scoring options, you would hope that Monty Williams would put Mikal Bridges under a microscope and say, hey, I need a little bit more from you. I need you to take just some more shot attempts. I need you to try to carry this offense, not for the entire game, but for some stretches at points. And tonight, 18 shot attempts, led the team in shot attempts, which is vital in my personal opinion. That's one of those things I'm looking for. As a fan who's sitting there and trying to understand what's going wrong with this team, knowing that the basis of it all and foundationally, it's the fact that they're injured. When these injuries started, my big thing is this is opportunity. This opportunity for DA. This opportunity for Mikal Bridges. There's opportunity for our third and fourth highest paid guys to demonstrate value and to also utilize it as an opportunity to improve their game, aspects of their offensive game, because both play fantastic defense. DeAndre Ayton is a great defender. He doesn't get enough talk about how great and versatile of a defender he is. We know what Mikal Bridges is when he's not having to guard unbelievably physical players on the defensive end, but offensively, he's just been very passive. And finally, we saw a game where it's like, you know what? Mikal Bridges is going to go out there and he's going to be aggressive Mikal. He had 6 points in the first quarter. He had 6 points in the second quarter. He had 5 points in the third quarter, and he had 9 points in the fourth quarter. That is consistently attacking. That's not disappearing Mikal, because we have the Warden drop with Merle Haggard singing us back home. like I'm this close to making a drop for him and calling him the magician because he disappears for quarters at a time offensively. And it was nice to see, probably a victim of circumstance, that he performed in the manner that he did tonight. Win or lose, I wanted to see some more engagement from him. We got that tonight.
Absolutely. I was really impressed. I was really happy that Mikal, and the biggest thing about Mikal is also that his points usually come in the non-critical moments of a game. His points tonight, his fourth quarter shots, making those middies were incredibly important, every single one of them. So I was very happy to see that. Mikal, he had one of those great games. Do not, folks, be surprised if he scores 5 points tomorrow night.
Oh yeah, that's just the Mikhail way.
That's the Mikal way.
Yeah.
And so you just don't know what's going to happen. But you know what? The Suns got that win that they needed. They got the win and they sent the Warriors to their third straight loss. So this is always good. Now, let me throw one more thought out there.
Okay.
As you guys got to see Dwayne Washington be second on the Suns in scoring with, I think it's 22 points.
21.
21 points tonight. He had 25, I think, last night. If I'm getting my games right, last game. Is he demonstrably different than Jordan Poole?
No. Yeah, no.
Poole can't play defense either.
Yeah,
Dwayne
they
can't
both
play
turned the ball
defense.
over a bunch.
They both turn the ball. They both try. They're both like unconscious with their shots, and they're better shooters when they're covered, like when they're flustered or trying to get something up really fast. Like Dwayne's best shots are the ones where he's under duress.
And they both have that quick trigger to them. There is one demonstratively different aspect. It's the fact that starting next year, Jordan Poole is going to make $27.4 million, and Dwayne Washington's a two-way player who is undrafted. I think that's a
Is it only 27? I thought he signed for an average of 35.
It's going to grow. He signed a 4-year 128, so it's an average of 32. So it goes 27, 29, 31, 34.
I'd rather have Dwayne Washington's contract.
Hell yeah. Dwayne Washington, he's going to be one of those guys we're not going to be able to keep next year. That's what's unfortunate. Him and all of our veteran minimum guys, who are making the 1.8, the Josh Okogie, Damian Lee, those guys are gone next year because they're playing so amazing, and they're getting the opportunity to do so, and they're upping their value left and right.
Yeah, I think Damian Lee is for sure showing that he was more than the Warriors thought he was, although he is 30 already. Torrey Craig this is who he is when he gets minutes. Dwayne Washington definitely played himself into another contract. I feel really good for him. He's still on a two-way. The Suns at some point are going to have to increase and get him going into a full year contract, just like they did last year when Wainwright got to the 50-game mark. They got him into a full contract too. And that's great. And Dwayne deserves it. And he deserves to get a good contract going forward. It all depends on what happens this summer with the Suns, but he'll get one somewhere.
Do you think Dwayne Washington Jr. is the future of the Suns' backup point guard, and Cameron Payne is adios?
I think he's more of a two than a three. I think he's the future of taking Landry Shamet's place.
Oh man, that's a perfect role for him too. That's all we need. That's all. Dwayne Washington Jr. is doing
Tertiary
everything.
Ball handler.
Yes, and just
because he said, I asked him after the game the other night that what's dramatically different for you, better for you this year than last year. He's like, oh, my ball handling. I'm on the ball constantly this year. Last year I was off the ball so much, and I don't know exactly what role he played at Ohio State, but he is definitely one of those combo guards who can do whatever he wants with the ball. He can make really good passes. He can get 4, 5, 7 assists a night on good minutes, and but he's more of a combo flamethrower, like a Jordan Poole type, like we wish Landry Shamet was.
And Landry's had flickering, production from time to time, but he hasn't been it, especially when you talk about price for value paid. He hasn't provided something like Dwayne Washington Jr. does, so we'll see what happens moving forward with both of those guys. But, God bless Dwayne Washington Jr. getting his first start. Did you see that statistic? I'm sure you did before the game, that with Dwayne Washington Jr. starting, every member of the Phoenix Suns has now started at least once. and we're 42 games into the season. That's
Good
not
Lord.
a good stat to have.
That's not a good stat.
That's not where you want to be.
So people are complaining. I'm sorry. This is my only chance to podcast, so I'm going to keep you long.
Do it.
People are complaining about the Suns not using their 15th roster spot. Have you heard this?
That's so
Can
James Jones.
Can I just make a comment though about that? Because most teams are using their two-way spots like the Suns are these days. So initially, teams are using the two-way spots for the dude like Jared Harper for the Suns 3 years ago, right? He's a 21-year-old, didn't get drafted, so the Suns picked him up, put him on a two-way, basically a half rookie contract, put him in the G League to see what would happen. That's what teams used to do. Most teams, the majority of teams these days, are using their two-way contracts for playable players.
Mm-hmm.
The Warriors have Anthony Lamb on a two-way.
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, they had Jordan Poole on a two-way. Every year, Gary Payton II on a two-way.
He was a two-way guy.
Right? Those are all playable players who are not 20 years old. They're 25, 24, 23, that kind of age. And because that's what you used to spend your 15th roster spot on. That's what you used to spend your 14th roster spot on. So the Suns actually have, as you saw tonight, Ish Wainwright and Dwayne Washington Jr., their two-way guys, are basically their 15th and 16th roster spots. And even when your injury list is so long, TNT can't put it on a one page on a graphic, you can still have 9 guys active because of those. The other thing is, because those two ways are being used this way, there aren't any real playable players out there to sign for that 15th spot. Do you want to sign, for example, Kemba Walker got released by yet another team?
No. Why?
You want him over? Because if you sign him, guess who you have to bench?
Dwayne Washington Jr.
I'd rather play Dwayne Washington Jr.
Yeah, I would too.
Stop worrying about the thing you don't have. And appreciate the thing you have.
Typical
That's what I'm
Suns.
saying.
Again, like everybody wants that 15th spot filled because that's the key. That's what we're missing. That's why the Suns aren't winning. It's because we don't have Kemba. It's like, no,
right.
Just people need to stop with that.
I'd rather have Dwayne Washington than Kemba, period.
Amen.
So let's just stay with that. Suns are already 16 deep on this roster the way it is. I'm not worried about that 15th spot. By the way, who gets credit for player development? The Warriors, right? Guess who have an open 15th spot this year?
The Minnesota Timberwolves.
No, the Warriors have an open 15th spot. The Warriors are also holding their spot to see if there's any really prime buyouts.
Yeah,
that
follow that blueprint. Because exactly when it's buyout time, which guess what? We're like a month away from that. The trade deadline is now officially less than a month away. It's February 9th. Today's the 10th of January. And you go through the trade deadline, you navigate that, and then guess what? The buyout market comes around. And again, not something James Jones is huge on. Yeah. I remember 2 years ago, guys like JaVale McGee, Gorgie Jang, a lot of those guys hit the buyout market, and he chose not to get them. And probably could have used those guys in the finals to throw a few fouls at Giannis.
Everyone said at the trade deadline 2 years ago the Suns needed another big. It did come true for when Dario went down in the final. It did come true. And then a year ago, the Suns need another playmaker. It came true in the second round of the playoffs when Chris Paul became Cliff Paul in the second round of the playoffs. And
so what do we need this year, Dave? True.
So people know. I think you need another playmaker. They still need that other playmaker. Now, is that guy Dwayne Washington?
No.
Maybe not in the playoffs. Well, he's also only 22 and barely has done this kind of thing. I think you need to acquire more so. I mean, obviously, you need some size at power forward, too. I think another wing, even when they're healthy, they could use somebody 6'9" or 6'10" who can move. Not a power forward, not a Charles Oakley, but certainly somebody who can move. And they've been linked to young guys that they want to.
So let's talk about that. You wrote a piece today for Brightside on Jalen McDaniels from the Charlotte Hornets. Tell me about him, because Sham Charania tweeted out today that the Suns are linked to him every week. You said it in your article. The last time the Suns played the Warriors, they were this close.
Came out.
Yeah, the rumor came out. Same thing happened today. So tell me a little bit about.
Well, it looks like
McDaniels.
what the Suns are trying to do. Well, Jalen McDaniels is a young guy, kind of like, well, he's 25 now, but he's fairly young, a little bit underdeveloped. He's 6'9". He averages 10 points, 5 rebounds for the Charlotte Hornets. He's playable. He would be your fourth big man. He would take basically Torrey Craig's spot going forward when you're fully healthy. And assuming you had Jay, actually now that they don't have Jay, Torrey could still play, and you could have this guy, and he'd be 6'9", and he'd have more length. The Suns need more length at the power forward spot, but not more. I mean, they could use somebody obviously who can grab 7-8 rebounds a game, absolutely. But there's very few guys out there in this NBA who are gettable, that are over 6'8", that can also move on the perimeter, play switchable defense like the Suns want to play, and can rebound, and are offensively viable, and can hit a three. Those are rare guys. So it's all right. Now, McDaniels would be a good ad. So would Jared Vanderbilt be a good ad. So would KJ Martin be a good ad. They all fit the same kind of mold. But the Suns aren't looking at that as like their main target. Their main target, they're looking at a scorer, but they also want to add one of those young guys on a little contract as an extra. And so that's what James Jones is trying to do, and we'll see if he can get it done.
And that's why it takes a third team, correct?
Yeah, that's why it takes a third team. So the thing is, none of those teams that have like the young guys who are willing to trade a young guy, and the Suns don't have any young guys to give back, rebuilding teams don't want Jay Crowder.
Nope.
Who wants Jay Crowder? Contenders want Jay Crowder. Milwaukee Bucks, Miami Heat. The Brooklyn Nets would love to have Jay Crowder. There's another team in there who
Celtics.
Atlanta wants Jay Crowder.
Atlanta
Celtics
does.
could use him. None of those guys want to trade a better player than Jay Crowder back to the Suns. So you need a third team. You need a third team to get, so the Jay Crowder goes to a contender. The Suns get what they want in a scorer. And then this third team gets a draft pick or two and salary relief. That's what you're looking for.
And that's why, again, so many people talk about the fact that James Jones hasn't made a move. You don't want to make a panic move. Do we get frustrated as fans that Jay Crowder is still rostered? Of course.
I wish he would have traded Jay Crowder 6 months ago.
Me too.
I do. And the Suns would be better off right now, and they'd be better than 21-21. They'd be higher even with all these injuries because they'd have one more guy to play. I totally agree with you guys. But nobody is selling right now because of the way the lottery odds are and because of the play-in tournament.
Exactly.
25 teams are still in the playoff hunt. No one's selling. No one wants to sell a good player for Jay Crowder. They just don't. Now, by February, they're going to decide, you know what, I'm not that close to the play-in. I guess I'll tank and see if I can get the chances for, one of the great lottery picks. Then people will sell, but not until the first week of February. But things will happen. Last year, there were a lot of trades in the last week before the deadline that were really impactful. CJ McCollum went to the Pelicans right before the deadline. Spencer Dinwiddie went to the Mavericks right before the deadline. A lot of difference-making trades of that tertiary. Derek White to the Boston Celtics right before the deadline. They did these trades when teams were ready to sell, and when you have to wait until they're ready to sell, and nobody is yet.
Exactly. We're just not at that point. So patience is the key, my dear friends. Patience is the key.
I just heard something today that Atlanta, while they've been willing to trade John Collins for 5 years now, right?
Yeah.
They still want 2 first-round picks for him.
Yeah, like no one's going to pay that.
That's why he's still there.
Yeah.
The Rockets still want an unprotected first-round pick for Eric Gordon. You know why? Because they know there's 25 buyers and only 5 sellers.
Exactly.
We need more sellers on the market to get a better price.
And that's the disadvantage of the way that the NBA has structured it with the play-in game. Since the play-in game, it completely changes the trade deadline. Not the trade deadline itself, but the 2 months leading up to it, the December and the January transactions, which is where we've seen James Jones pounce in the past. He doesn't always do something right at the trade deadline. He'll do something in January, right? He's ahead of the trade deadline. But I was literally looking this up the other day. I'm like, how many trades have occurred over the past 3 seasons? And, it's like, it's all the same.
Jones's watch. Yeah.
No, well, James Jones's watch is different. He always just acquires Torrey Craig, and he's really at a tough spot because he can't release him and then bring him back just because that's like his annual tradition. Some people celebrate Christmas.
He loves him some Torrey Craig.
Some people celebrate Hanukkah. He celebrates acquiring Torrey Craig onto his team. That's what he does. It's like the present underneath whatever symbol he has, not a tree, not a menorah, whatever he's got. So back into the show. Let's
it's a
hand out
headband.
It's wrapped in headbands. That's
It's
what
wrapped
it
in
is.
headband.
Let's give out some Jam Star.
Jam Star of the Game.
Jamsters, as a reminder, if you're watching along live, let us know in the chat who your Jam Star of the Game is. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, rate, and review. And if you're listening, yell it out loud. I hope that you are shopping in Target and you're going down an aisle and you're looking for some fabric softener, but now you're buying underwear for no apparent reason, because that's what happens when you go to Target and you go and you're listening to this podcast. You go, yeah, Mikhail Bridges, and somebody across the store. I hope that's what happened. So, Dave, you're the guest on the show. Who are you giving the Jam Star of the Game to tonight? Is it a specific player? Is it the entire team? What are you doing? Are you going to get creative with it?
Should I troll one of the commenters and say my Jam Star of the Game is James Jones, because he put together this back end of the roster on about a $5 million total dollars?
Seriously, I don't even know if it was $5 million. I mean, with all those,
with the two ways and the minimums and all that. They say James Jones gets coddled. Look, man, anyone who takes my team to the finals is going to get coddled. That's just all there is to it. He turned around a 19-win team to a finals team in 2 years. I'm coddling him. He can come over. I will coddle him. I just fist bumped him the other day in the hallway. I didn't quite coddle him, but I did say hi, and he did remember my name. He's like, "Hey, Dave." So I'll take that as a plus. And we got confirmation that James Jones is going to be the pregame interview for Brightside Night on January 30th. And you got to let me plug Brightside Night here before we go.
Go for it.
But yeah, no, my Jam Star of the Game is not James Jones. My Jam Star of the Game is Damian Lee. Dude got his world championship ring from the Warriors before the game from his brother-in-law, Steph Curry. And then he went out and beat his brother-in-law's ass. Beat his brother-in-law's ass. That's like, the big, less talented brother finally beating the ass of the cocky younger brother who's got all the talent in the world.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Awesome. Damian. And did you see at the end of the game, Damian Lee did I don't know, how Steph does the high jump, high stepping.
Yeah.
When they take a lead at the end of the game, Damian Lee did that after making some free throws and forcing a Golden State Warriors timeout. It was awesome.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I agree with you. It's Damian Lee. He iced this game. I mean, let's not we'll play it as it lies, call it what it is. That last 3 minutes was stressful because all of a sudden, you're like, we can't win this game. We don't have a ball handler. Dwayne Washington Jr. seems to be compromised. He's not out there. Torrey Craig he dribbles twice and just falls over. Dario, and then Damian Lee just, not only did he provide an option, but he executed at the free throw line. He was 14 of 14 from the free throw line. What a night for D. Lee. It was a fun game to watch, and I really enjoyed just seeing him go out there and win that. So anything you want to say on Brightside Night? You want to tell people what to do?
So once again, for the 7th year in a row, we're doing Brightside Night, where we give tickets to underprivileged kids in the Valley to go see their first son's game. Tickets are only $15 a piece. So all you got to do is you got to go on a link, suns.com/brightside. Will you put that in the chat for me? Suns.com/brightside. Go in there for $15. You can donate a ticket. In fact, and then that'll get matched by the Suns. So it's really 2 tickets. You're giving 2 tickets for his $15 to another couple of kids. We're going to be, we've already gotten a $100,000 donation from the new Suns buyers, the Ishbia brothers. $100,000. So we'll send more kids than we ever have to a game this year. But that doesn't stop there. We can send more kids. This is a big valley. This is a 6 million person valley. There's a lot of underprivileged kids out there that we could send. $15. Go on there. Suns.com/brightside.
And I will say this, Jamsters, Matthew and I, we donated $150, which means you get 2 complimentary upper level tickets. So come hang out with me and Matthew.
So what did you guys do? You sent 20 kids to the game. In fact, that was triple match week.
It was triple match week.
30 kids to the game.
Yep.
And you get to go to the game, and you get to talk to James Jones before the game.
I'm so nervous.
For $150.
I'm just going to ask him to say, "This is James Jones, and you're listening to the Suns Jam Session podcast." and then I'll dub over. He'll be like, "What? Get this guy out of here!" It's like, "Get this guy out of here."
When you ask a question, you need to introduce them. This is John Voida with the Jam Session Podcast.
You bet your ass I will. I just got to
Yeah.
come up with a good question. But I think it's fantastic that you do that, Dave. It's great. I love that we're going to have an opportunity, and Brightside has an opportunity to give back to these kids and let them experience an NBA game and let them feel what it's like to step into that arena and see that big board and just like, for those of you who go to the games, what that's like when you're there, you're watching the game, but during the timeouts, it's the energy of the building. It's going to be so much fun. So it's great that you did that. And thank you for hanging out with us. I appreciate you coming on again. Matthew wasn't feeling well. He couldn't come on the podcast. And there's nothing better than having the king on after a win. So
Thank you, Matthew. Matthew Lissu.
Thanks, Matthew.
Is it Matthew Lissu? Thanks for letting me take your seat for a night. You guys are great on this show. I love watching it. And maybe I'll be on after another win sometime.
There you go. We'll just have you on tomorrow because it'll be a guaranteed win. Let everyone know where they can follow you.
You can follow me at Dave King NBA on Twitter. And I write almost every day on brightsideofthesun.com, the biggest Suns blog in the world. John Voida writes with me on there. We got a dozen people who contribute on that blog, and it's a great place to be for 24/7 Suns coverage.
Amen. Well, we appreciate that. Again, you can follow me at Darth Voida. Follow the show at Suns Jam. After this is done, Dave, make sure you go on there and fix Khalil's password for him because he doesn't know how to. And
no, that's your job. I already delegated that to you a year ago.
I didn't answer that one. And remember, Jamsters, go home and chest your family.